All right, this training today is on authorities, Library of Congress authorities, SAGE authorities, and we decided to have this training as a result of the previous training on series. So this is going to be geared mainly with our efforts in making consistent series information in the catalog. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm not talking to thin air, hopefully. All right, Lisa says good, Leanne says good, great. If any of you can't hear me, I'm not sure what I can do about it, so I'll just keep talking. All right, I'm going to bring up my web client here. And what I'm going to draw your attention to first is the new document that we've uploaded onto the SAGE website. I'll show you where to go to get this in just a second. This is the document that Heather and I compiled, and it has two parts. The first part is the page you see here, talking about finding established series information within the SAGE catalog. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then the second part here is locating series information in Library of Congress. And we all know that that website can be a little difficult to navigate. So we're going to go through that and try to make some sense of it. Now, where is this document? This document is on the SAGE website. Let me go back. Okay, so as you go to the sagelib.org website, it's here under cataloging. If you click on the main heading here, it'll take you here. And it's under resources on the left side here, locating series authorities in SAGE and Library of Congress. Okay, so what I'm going to attempt to do here, if I know how to do this, I'm going to try and split this so that we can have this up at the same time. I'm going to get that out of the way, and I'm going to move this over here. All right, hopefully that shows the same for all of you as it does for me, so we can hop back and forth between this document when we need to. All right, why do we need authorities? Why can't we just enter in whatever we want into added entries or series information in the catalog? Because it creates confusion and it's inconsistent, right? Authorities allow us to take something, a term or a phrase, something that has meaning, and it allows us to differentiate something that has many meanings. For example, if we use the term Mercury, what does Mercury mean? Could it be the element? Could it be the planet? Could it be the recording label? Could it be half a dozen other things that mean Mercury? Authorities also allow us to take many terms that mean the same thing and specify one out of those terms that all mean the same thing that is what we prefer to use so that we can find it when we need it. So it does two different things, essentially. And if you look over here at this document, we're going to start going through this, and hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you're anything like me, you need to kind of do it to kind of get it in your head. So that's what we're going to do right here. I've got the web client pulled up here. And this example that I've got on this one-page document, locating established series entries in the SAGE catalog, we're going to look up this particular series by James Patterson, the Women's Murder Club series, which I'm sure many, if not all of you, have this in your library. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to go over to search the catalog. And let's say I want to add a book in this series into my catalog. So I'm going to go over here. And I tend to err on the side of putting more information than necessary. So you can see over here, I've got in this example, I've got James Patterson, and I also have Women's Murder Club. Truthfully, if you put in just Women's Murder Club, you would probably see the results that we want to see. However, I tend to go above and beyond these types of things. So I'm going to click search, and I've got 2 keyword searches going at the same time here. And it's going to pull up a lot of results. 104 to be specific. And I'm going to go over here so that I have my faceted results on the left side here. And I'm going to go down, as the document says, I'm going to go down to where it says personal series and uniform title series. Now, what is the difference between personal series and uniform title series? Anybody know?
Personal series is by a single author, usually.
Single author series. And so this information is taken from what mark field?
800.
The 800 field, right? Whereas the uniform title series over here, Bookshots, is taken from what?
830.
Okay, Heather's already answered 3 questions, so she's not allowed to answer any more questions. Is everybody all in agreement? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so here we are in personal series. We know that James Patterson's Women's Murder Club is a single author series. We can debate James Patterson's authorship at another time, but so we're going to go ahead and look at this result. We have 93 results for Women's Murder Club. That looks pretty consistent, so I'm going to click on that. That is a pretty established SAGE authority, we would say, right? Okay, and I have 93 results, including books and CDs and large print and all kinds of stuff for the Women's Murder Club series, okay? Now, I'm going to go through and I might as well find that. I bet I can find that 3rd degree. Like it matters. There it is. Okay. Now, notice here that in your results, you're going to see the series right here, Women's Murder Club, number 3. That looks nice. So I'm going to go there. Now, if I'm going to add another book of this series into the catalog that isn't there already, what series information am I going to need to include? Well, I'm going to go down here. And I see the 490 series statement information here for 3rd degree. You're going to take that as on your particular resource. You'll notice there is no period at the end of the 491 field, 490 first indicator 1 field. And you'll see the term used on the book, whether it be volume or book, compendium, I don't know, whatever term is used on your book is included here in the numeration. As we go further down, we're going to go look at the series entry, which is 800 field because it is a single author, and it would be an 830 if it were a uniform title or preferred title, which is the term in RDA. I can't say that I've seen an 810 for corporate name as an author. Maybe some of you all have. That would be a much less common thing, but I suppose it does exist out there. First indicator 1 for forename, very similar to the 100 field, right? So we have the name and date, and we have the title of the series, Women's Murder Club here. Notice in the numeration, this one does end in a period, does not include terminology from the book, just numeration as well as the leading 0. Okay, so some different key differences there that are highlighted in the series document that Anna is doing training on. So right here we have our established authority in SAGE. So I would include that information as it says right here. I'd include that 800 information, and then I would include that 490 first indicator 1 series statement. Okay, does that seems pretty clear, pretty basic? If not, please throw questions at me. Anything looks strange? Is that different than what everyone else is doing? I'll be happy to move on to page 2 and 3, which is looking up authorities in Library of Congress, if nobody has any questions so far. All right, so let's look at these two examples. I have two examples because one is a single author or personal series, and one is a multi-author or uniform title, preferred title series. So let's go look at page 2 first. Now, you may need to, and it's highly encouraged, that you do a little bit of research to find out whether or not it is a single author or multiple author series first. And we have several authorities that we can consult. Fantastic fiction, of course, Goodreads. If you have novelists, use that. They're good authorities to tell you, give you the full scope of the series, and then you can see whether or not you're dealing with a multi-author or a single author series. For this example here, we're going to look at James Patterson's private series. I guess James Patterson is super popular in these training documents for some reason. I don't know why. All right, so let's go ahead and bring up the private series first in Sage here, and then we'll head over to the Library of Congress. Cataloging, search the catalog. Okay, I'm going to do it the same way. Patterson, James. And I'm going to do keyword private. And let's see what we get here.
Why do you do them as two separate keyword searches instead of one?
Just to be difficult, which is the reason I do much of the stuff I do. Keyword is keyword. You could combine it all in one field if you want. Let's go down here. Let's look at personal series. Private detective agency novels. Private novels. Oh, look at that. We have private down here even in uniform title. So that's an 830 that somebody made private. That's interesting. This might be a series that we may need to look at and do some cleanup. So what is the right one? How do we know which one is the right one? Well, of course, first we look at established Sage authorities. And then now I'm going to go look over and see what Library of Congress has to say about this. The website's right here, authorities.loc.gov. Now, we are going to do, today we're going to talk about name title searches. A little later we're going to talk about title searches. Name and title corresponding to the personal series, the Mark 800 field. And title authorities dealing with uniform title or 830 fields. Now, one thing about the Library of Congress website, although it will not caution you that you can't do this, it does not go back and forth between title searches and name title searches easy. They're kind of like two separate worlds, and they don't go from one to the other. I'll show you what I mean in a second. For this exercise, we're going to look at a name title search, and we're going to look up James Patterson, was 1947, I think. And notice I'm not even going to put a title in. I'm just going to search him, and it's going to bring up, it's going to time out is what it's going to do. Thanks, Library of Congress. I get to do that again. Patterson, James, 1947. I hope that's the right date. I'll find out in a second. All right, so this is just going to start at the beginning of the name, title, authority headings, starting with James Patterson. So he's got quite a few, as you might imagine. And so we're going to go down. We're going to keep going down. You probably recognize a lot of these titles to where the information is for this private series, whatever it is. Okay. Now I got a lot of things here that start with private. What in the world does that mean? I've got private up here. I've got private Berlin, private Delhi, private games, private India. I come down here. This looks promising. Private novel. Now I see over here I've got a references cross-reference, which means this is not an authorized heading. But thankfully they provide me with the references, and that's going to show me what the actual title, the actual preferred name title heading is. It's right here, James Patterson 1947 private novels. Now I could go directly there, but I'm actually going to go back here, and turns out it's right there, and we can see that it says authorized heading. So why are there all these other ones? And can I use those, and why can't I use them? Well, you can see here in the second column, there's numbers here that indicate that they are actually attached to bib records somewhere, but those are not authorized headings any more than these reference ones are. So these ones we do not use, only the ones that are here in authorized heading. Now, there is a caveat to that, in that sometimes we have established SAGE headings that are not authorized LOC, Library of Congress headings, and we've made a conscious decision to do that as a consortium for a number of different reasons. That's why our established SAGE headings do take precedent over Library of Congress authorized headings, especially since the Library of Congress does not as scrupulously provide authoritative information for series anymore, like they used to, as you all have probably noticed. Okay, all of that to say, let's go look at this authorized heading here for private novels. Okay, I got to click twice. I don't know why they make me click twice. So here is my authority record for the James Patterson private novels, and I'm going to point out a couple things here. This is the information we want. Here, the 100 field in the authority heading is the same information we're going to use here. I've copied the same information here. So the 100 field here is what's going to turn into our 800 field here. Notice also we have 400s and 430s, which I've included here, which the authority heading is telling you this information is not to be used. Instead, we need to use this. Remember, we were talking about one of the purposes of authority headings is to take information that means the same thing, quote unquote, and determine which we should use, which in this case is this, James Patterson, 1947, subfield T private novels. Down here we have some scope notes, which these aren't all that helpful, but sometimes when there's confusion, looking down in the 600s for scope notes provides clarifying information sometimes when something is a little unclear, as we're going to see a little bit later. Okay, so that is where we would find our authoritative information for 800.
John?
Yes.
This is Ellen from
Ellen.
Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
I came in a few minutes late, so you might have already said this, but I don't know what a scope note is.
Sorry, a scope note is in the authority heading down here in the Library of Congress authority heading that we looked at here for James Patterson. These 670 notes down here oftentimes will provide clarification, and so in archival terms it's called a scope and contents note, but I'm not sure if that's the technical term for it, but I call them scope notes, just to give you an idea of the scope of this particular series. It's just clarifying information. Sometimes LSC has it, sometimes they don't, but it's always worthwhile to look and see just to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to. Does that?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right, so
can I say something really quick?
By
Sorry.
all means.
One of the things I use it for also, Ellen, is to make sure that I'm not using the wrong, because the 400s and the 430s and stuff, a lot of times I will come across a wrong, what do you call it, notation. It's an 830 instead of an 800, but I can see, it'll show me, oh, those are wrong, those are wrong. I can only take the 100 line out of that page.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That helps.
That's really helpful to know.
We're going to look at an authority record that does just that very thing in a minute or two, because it oftentimes can be confusing. So here we are, and we've got our authoritative information here, and so it turns out that private novels is actually the correct information here, right? Let's go there and click there and see what we've got here. As you can see here, count to 10 is private novels. Private LA is listed just as private. By the way, has anybody else noticed that sometimes authoritative information changes? And so sometimes an authority will change something, and that means that, oh, great, all 50 books that we had been using this information now has to be this, which is just tons of fun when you encounter that, right? Okay, so if we click on this one here, Princess, private novels, let's just look and see what we've got here. James Patterson, 1947, private novels, 14. Looks right to me. All right, so let's go take a look real quickly at a uniform title. In this example here on page 3 of the document, we're going to look up 39 clues. Why is it a uniform title and not a personal series? Because we got all kinds of different authors, right? And so that would quickly become a mess if we made that series information based on a single author. It would be all over the place. But to group this series together, we would need to group it by title and not by author. So here we go. We're going to do my search here. What search did I do in the catalog? Oh, I didn't. I just do it in title here. 39 clues. Search.
Actually, John, you'll need to use series probably as opposed to title.
That's right. I will. However, I had one brave soul do a personal series, 39 clues. That looks fun. And then just for my own curiosity, I'm going to go back and do that search that you suggested, but I'm just curious why I got results down here. Because it's actually in the title itself, right? What do I got down here? 39 clues. Okay, that's what I was expecting. So let's go here and we'll search in series to bring up the books in 39 clues that don't actually have 39 clues in the title. Let's see what we got. I suspect we'll probably have more than 4 results, right? Okay. I go down here to personal series. We've got a couple of strays here, lingering in personal series, but you can see most of them are here in uniform title series. 39 clues. So let's head over to the Library of Congress and just see what this authoritative information says. Now, let's see, I'm trying to figure out a good way to demonstrate this. I probably could have done it with the private, but I'll go back and see if I can't demonstrate this later on. But let me continue on with my search. I'm going to use the title search, not the name and title. for 39 clues. Okay, I've got a little bit of, I've got quite a few, actually 39 clues. It looks like, though, that this is what I'm going to want to use. Something down here, this looks like this might be a subseries. That also. I'm not sure. I don't catalog fiction at my library, so y'all probably know much more about these different series and subseries than I do. But you'll notice we have two here. We have a series title and a non-series title. And occasionally you'll encounter this where you want to use a title as a series, but you need to check over here at the type of heading to make sure it is one that you can use as a series. And that also has the caveat that sometimes we will use something that Library of Congress has said is a non-series title as an established SAGE heading. So that does happen, but it happens for very specific reasons. So here I am. I'm going to click on authorized heading. Click on 39 clues. This is going to bring up the authority heading, or I'm sorry, the authority record for 39 clues, and I have my 130 field, which I'm going to use in 830. Just 39 clues, as well as the numeration. Now you'll notice, folks, that Library of Congress does not include any numeration, right? It didn't in the other example either, right? It just has the the authorized series title and doesn't have any of the numeration. And that's why down here, number 15 says you may need to consult additional authorities and source in a 500 note. Well, how would we do that? We would look up in any of our other authorities that we have, Fantastic Fiction, Goodreads, Novelist, that have the numeration there, and then when we include that numeration, we do need to specify where it came from. So in a 500 note, we would say series numeration from Goodreads or Novelist or Fantastic Fiction. 430 field here saying 39 clues. Well, why can't I use that? That's the same thing. Well, yes, it is the same thing, but we want it to be consistent in the catalog, so we wouldn't use this 39 clues. Scope note here telling us where they got, or which book they used to determine their authoritative information there. Pretty simple, I think, at least this example is. So most of it ended up here, which is good. And do we have anybody have any questions so far? Uniform title, authority here, personal series up here. Two different types of headings, two different types of authoritative information, two different mark fields. Now, do we want to move on to some stuff that's not quite so cut and dry? Dare we?
Yes, please.
I think we dare. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to put that away since we already went through that document there. Let's look at this series called Hackberry Holland. Burke. James Lee Burke is the author. And let's see what results we get here. Okay, I'm going to go down here to personal series. I've got Hackberry Holland, I've got Hackberry Holland novels. Okay, 4 of them are here, 2 of them are here. Okay, I'm not sure which one, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look in Library of Congress. And I'm not going to look in title, I'm going to look in name title. Burke, James Lee. And I'm going to come up with a bunch of stuff. And I go down to, okay, so I see Hackberry Holland novels here. It is not an authorized heading, neither does it have a references, so it doesn't refer me to what the actual one is. Okay. Now I see down here, I see Holland Family Saga. Well, that could be it, I suppose. I didn't see that in Sage, but that doesn't mean it might not be the authorized heading, so let me go look and see what it says here. James Lee Burke, Holland Family Saga. I don't have any 400s, but I do have some scope notes here. James Lee Burke, The Jealous Kind, looks like that's the book that they created this heading from, or this authoritative information from. The Jealous Kind, Holland Family Saga #2. Each of the books in the Holland Family Saga are written as standalone novels. Each novel features a descendant of the original Hackberry Holland. Okay, so that gives me pause in that I think if I'm going to add a book from the original Hackberry Holland series, this might not be the series that I want. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to look him up. And let's get a little bit more information about his series work here in Fantastic Fiction. I see the original Hackberry Holland, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Fantastic Fiction has those. They also have something called Billy Bob Holland here. And then they have Holland Family down here. There's that Jealous Kind that was referred to. So I think that particular heading probably applies to these two books, Holland Family, as opposed to Hackberry Holland that I have here. And just because I like to be clear, I'm going to go over here in Goodreads, and here I'm going to do the same search. Looks like there's Holland Family Saga, and here's Hackberry Holland. So in this case, it looks like I don't have the authoritative information from Library of Congress that I want. I have this, but this corresponds to 2 other books in another series. All right, so what do I do in that case? In that case, I have 2 Sage authorities already in here. I have Hackberry Holland and I have Hackberry Holland novels. Okay. Current Sage policy is that I'm going to go with this Hackberry Holland because I have more records attached to this personal series than I do to that one. Okay, does that make sense? And when I go over to Fantastic Fiction, that information is confirmed here as well. Okay, I don't see, I mean, I have, I don't have I have Hackberry Holland novels. The only place I have that is here that I've seen so far, right? And that's not authoritative in Library of Congress. So I'm going to go with this one, and probably these 2 right here, I'm not going to say that for certain because I haven't done the research, correspond to that particular series. I bet they do. Let's take a look and see. And so they should be included. Feast Day of Fools, Lay Down My Sword and Shield. There's Lay Down My Sword and Shield and Feast of Fools in the same series. So that is something that we should combine so that we're using consistent information. All right, does that make sense? Did I lose anybody? I have not lost anybody, hopefully. Now, one thing I did notice as I was goofing around here, let me see if I can find it. Wayfaring Stranger does not have any series information attached to it. Now, I remember seeing Wayfaring Stranger somewhere. Where did I see Wayfaring Stranger? Fantastic Fiction has Wayfaring Stranger here in Holland Family. And so that actually is a part of this series right here, is it not? So if I were doing cleanup on this series, I'm not going to take the time to do it now. This authoritative series information right here would go here in this 800 field. Because as you can see here, I don't have anything. And so being a part of that series, I have authoritative information for that series. And then jealous kind, right here, I bet that's somewhere in the catalog too, but I'm not going to take the time to find it. If I did, that would be a part of that series also. And the numeration I would take from Fantastic Fiction. Make sense? Okay. Now, let's look at something that we're not going to be able to resolve. And I'll explain why in a second. Let's look for John Sanford's Lucas Davenport series, or is it the Prey series? Which one is it? Sanford, John, and just to upset Heather, I'm going to go down here and search for Lucas Davenport. Let's see what we get here. Okay. So we've got 145 results here. Let's go down and see what series information we got. Oh my! We've got Prey novels, we've got Lucas Davenport, we've got Lucas Davenport novel, we've got Virgil Flowers novels, Lucas Davenport Prey novels. Wow, okay, a lot of stuff. That's just in personal series, and then we've got all of this stuff here in uniform title series, right? I like using the double keyword, especially with the Spanish items. Yes, I like using double keyword too. I concur. So if we were to go into Library of Congress, which is the next step that we would take, right? Let's do a search for Sanford John. Once again in name title. Here's Virgil Flowers. Okay, I've got an entry here for Prey novel, but it's a reference. It's not an authorized heading. It's a cross-reference. And that's telling me the authorized one is right here. John Sanford, February 23rd, Prey novel. Prey... Oops, did I miss that? Oh.
Go farther down.
The difference is this says February, that says Feb. That's the only difference. So as we go down here, we've got a bunch of stuff here. Oh, okay, so I have, wait a minute. I've got a Lucas Davenport novel. And then I've got Prey novel. I've got Prey novels here, but that's a reference. Probably going to refer back to here. So I have two authorized Library of Congress headings here. Let me take a look in the scope notes and see if there's anything I missed. Twisted Prey. Okay, no, that's the Prey books. Front cover, Lucas Davenport novel. Okay. I'm going to go back here. Let's look at the same thing here. Prey novel. Okay, I've got some 430s here, but nothing that says Lucas Davenport. I go down here, Sanford Certain Prey, new Prey novel, 10th Prey novel, okay. So from what I can gather here, this appears to be the same series with two authorized headings. Oh, you're welcome. Lisa says, this is how I can lose 20 minutes. Yeah. So let me go back to the catalog here and remind myself what I see here. So I see both of these. I see Lucas Davenport, right? Is that what it was? Or Lucas Davenport novel? I forget. Lucas Davenport novel and Prey novel. So this is correct according to Library of Congress, and this is correct according to Library of Congress. And these other ones are taken from somewhere else, or just incorrectly put in, or we're not sure what's going on. If we look over here at Fantastic Fiction, here's John Sanford's page. All right, I'm going to go to series. They have it as Lucas Davenport. Ah, gotcha. Okay, so that's where Lucas Davenport came from. The authorized in Library of Congress has Lucas Davenport novel. Sorry, that's the wrong page. Here's all the Prey books, and with all of the numeration down to 29 Neon Prey, which we just got in. You guys probably just did too. Lucas Davenport Omnibus. There's Virgil Flowers. Nothing else that says Prey novels. Okay, so that really didn't. Let's look over here in Goodreads. Here's the Goodreads has Lucas Davenport series also. There's all the same Prey books. So what are we going to do, folks? Are we going to use Lucas Davenport, or are we going to use Prey? Because they're both authorized information, right? And they're both referring to the same series, same books. And we need to have it be consistent, because otherwise patron searching, can you imagine patron searching just being a mess looking through this? The answer is this is a arbitrary decision that we're going to have to make as a consortium, right? So this is something where you would email your mentor, contact your mentor, and say, hey, both of these terms are legitimate. I'm not sure which one to use. And as you can see, there's a lot of inconsistency here. And so eventually, whoever of the mentors does the series cleanup and makes a decision on which one we're going to use, then we would have established SAGE authorities for this particular series. And ostensibly, if it was Lucas Davenport, we'd move all these Prey novels to Lucas Davenport, or vice versa to Prey novel. And so eventually we would hope to see a vast majority of the entries all being one or the other, in which case that would be then the authoritative information. So I kind of brought up an example that I had to end up punting. But this is a series that is in a lot of libraries, right? And so we're going to encounter these types of situations. Many other types of odd or strange situations are listed in that series document that the mentors spent months and months and months putting together. Ellen says, John, how do you guys decide which heading to use? Well, this is where I, as the nonfiction cataloger, get to punt and say, I leave it to the experts who catalog fiction to make that decision. How'd you like that answer? Yep, good answer. Always pass it on to somebody else. No, I catalog nonfiction most of the time, so a lot of times I get to deal with strange, odd nonfiction series, which oftentimes are uniform title, not personal titles or personal series. Haha, what do they say? Oh, they usually have some opinions. I'll just leave it at that. Is that right, Dia? And Heather?
Yes.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so we've gone through a couple of examples, some easy examples, some more difficult examples. Did anybody come loaded for bear with, you know what, I have this series that I just causes a headache and I just don't know what to do. I don't know where to find it in any of the authorities. Anybody come prepared to fire one of those at me? Not like I'm the expert or anything. I get as many of these wrong as I get right. but we do have time to look through maybe an example or two, or any questions just on authorities in general, anything in Library of Congress, fantastic fiction, Goodreads. I did lie a little bit earlier. I do catalog some fiction. I catalog the adult graphic novels here, and I usually find that Goodreads and Novelist I use to come up with authoritative series numeration and or series titles. One thing go ahead.
A good fun example could be the Ali Reynolds novels from J.A. Jance.
And how does she spell Ali?
A-L-I.
A-L-I. R-E-Y. Ali Reynolds, like that?
Yep.
Okay, let's see what we find. Since this example is coming from Heather, I'll probably make her explain it, but let's see what we get here.
Because this is very specific. If you look in the personal series, it says Ali Reynolds Mysteries and Ali Reynolds Novel.
Okay.
But they are separate types of items. If you look in Library of Congress.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Okay. So let's go ahead and look. By the way, you'll notice that Judith A. Jance is the authoritative heading for J.A. Jance, right? Not J.A. Jance. Okay, we're going to go over here to name title, right? Because it's a personal series. Yep.
Hopefully it's right.
Okay, what have I got here? I've got Ali Reynolds Mysteries. What? Say what?
Nothing. You are correct. Continue.
Okay, Ali Reynolds Mysteries here, and then I've got Ali Reynolds Novel here as a reference. But look at this. What in the world? I've got Ali Reynolds Novel spoken word. So let me look at this one first. Ali Reynolds Mysteries. Do I have anything in the scope notes here? No, I just have 2 books that it looks like they took that from. And even though you see this here says on the title page, it says an Ali Reynolds novel, that book would still be cataloged as Ali Reynolds Mysteries. At least the 800 field would say Ali Reynolds Mysteries. Okay, now what do I got over here? Ali Reynolds novel. Now this subfield as spoken word tells me what? That it's an audiobook, right? Yes? No?
Yes.
I hope so. Okay. Judith A. Jance, Cold Betrayal, 2015, container, an Ali Reynolds novel. So for some reason, in their infinite wisdom, Library of Congress decided that, okay, the audiobooks in this series are going to have this authoritative information. Why? I don't know. As we look over here, and let's look at what we've got in mysteries. Ideally, we would have all of the books, no? And then when we go back and look at novels in a second, let's see, we've got 21 books and we've got 5 large print. We have no audiobooks. Perfect. Wouldn't it be fun if they decided that large print was just Ali Reynolds? So we had Ali Reynolds Mysteries, we had Ali Reynolds Novels, and then we had Ali Reynolds. And by fun, I mean not fun at all. But so here I go over here to Ali Reynolds Novel. Let's see what I got when I click on it. With trepidation. Okay, and I've got 10 audiobook CDs, and then I've got 4 playaways here. So it looks like indeed Heather, was this one you just cleaned up?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yes. Okay. That's why
So,
you gave us this example. Yes. Go ahead.
so interestingly enough, and I'm not sure without looking further into these records, but is spoken word part of the actual series statement in the, because it should be a subfield S
Yes.
in the record itself.
Right. Let's take a look.
So whether that shows up in the filter or the facets is another story. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't show up in the faceted search, but it should be in the record.
Okay, so here it is in the record. I'm not sure. Is this a series that doesn't have numeration, or should it have numeration? I'm not sure. But you can see there that it does have subfield S spoken word, and this is an important point that they're making, that you realize that when we're searching in Sage, that subfield S is not going to appear here in the search results page, right? So we're just going to see Ali Reynolds novel number 7, 6. So it looks like there is numeration. Not sure why that one doesn't have one, but 10, 11, number 2. Now when you go into the actual record, then you will see that spoken word. So realize just because you don't see it in the search results page does not necessarily mean it's not there, but it is an important part of that authority heading here.
Right, you put exactly what you see in that 100 field in the 800.
Absolutely.
Which does mean that if it does not have spoken word in it, don't add it in.
That's right. If you just...
Because I see that sometimes for audio series.
Oh, that's a good point. See, if we go back here to Ali Reynolds Mysteries, which is what the book series is, right? Or rather, let's pretend for a second that the other authoritative series, the other authoritative heading didn't exist, and this was the only authoritative one. What Heather is saying, if you were applying this to an audiobook, you would not include subfield S spoken word. Is it spoken word? Yes, but that's not a part of the authoritative heading right here. Did I get that right?
Correct.
And don't be thrown off. We're looking in the authority headings here, and so just because it's a 100 in the authority headings, that does not correspond to your bibliographic record, right? The authority record and the bibliographic record, two different things. So this information goes in the 800 of your bibliographic record, not in the 100 of your bibliographic record. Even though it says 100, that's the authority record. Okay, good example. I've got one. If anyone else, unless anyone else has one they want to do, I'll prioritize mine last. But I do need to, I've got to go directly at 2 o'clock. So if anybody else doesn't have one, yes, no. Speaking of adult graphic novels, Walking Dead is figuratively the death of me. Ha ha ha. See what I did there? That wasn't funny at all. Okay.
You're hilarious.
I'm not funny, as I'm told many times by my wife. Okay. So I just did a search for Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, and there's all kinds of different Walking Dead going around, right? As we just take a brief look at some of these series headings. Walking Dead Governor Series, Walking Dead, Walking Dead. I look over here at Personal Series, and I see Walking Dead Graphic Novels, Walking Dead Video. Now, if I were to do this search really quickly here, Kirkman, Robert. Okay, now I've got a Robert Kirkman Walking Dead name title series right here, which would correspond to my 800 field, right? I've got a bunch of other stuff down here, but it looks like most of it points back to here, as opposed, except for this subseries. Notice the Spanish there. Sometimes Spanish materials have their own separate authoritative heading right here, or authority heading. But as I notice, I'm going to go in here to Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead, and I'm going to look at the scope note. Walking Dead 2013, The Walking Dead. Jay Bonanzinga, Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead Descent 2014, series title page, The Walking Dead series. Now, when I was cataloging the graphic novels, this caught my eye. Uh-oh, Jay Bonanzinga does not do the graphic novels. And the graphic novels are not published by this publisher right here. So it became clear to me that this series relates to the actual novels, not the graphic novels for Walking Dead. So this was another case where we didn't have any Sage authorities for the graphic novels. I'll get to that in a second. And there weren't any in Library of Congress. And Fantastic Fiction doesn't do graphic novels. So I ended up having to go here to Goodreads, I believe. Walking Dead graphic novels. Or did I? What did I get for Walking Dead graphic novels? No, that's not what I did. Walking Dead Kirkman. Let's see what I got here. Days Gone By. Yeah, use Goodreads? No, because the Goodreads authority is just The Walking Dead, which is the same as the Library of Congress, right? We of course would ditch the and use Walking Dead, so it corresponds with this one. So I couldn't use that. So we ended up making a Sage authority heading here for Walking Dead graphic novels to separate out the graphic novels. And they're all here with a, let's see what it looks like in the record. Oh, sorry, Novelist, that's where I got it. Series title taken from Novelist. You can see that's clearly stated here. Originally published in single magazine format. So we have Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead graphic novels. This happens to be a compilation of them. That's why you see the Volume 7, Volume 8. Oh, graphic novels, especially Walking Dead, big headache. All right, folks, well, it is 1:59, and so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this training. Hopefully this will be especially helpful when we continue on with our series training, because several times in the series document we do need to refer, it does say to refer to different authorities, and now we kind of have a grasp on what we're talking about when we're talking about Sage authorities, or we're talking about Library of Congress, name and title authorities, or just title authorities, as well as our other sort of more popular websites, which we do use for research also, Fantastic Fiction, Goodreads, and Novelist. So anyway, I hope it's helpful. Thank you all for being here. This is being recorded, and it'll be up online if you ever need to reference it in your future cataloging endeavors. Thank you so much, everybody.